Okay, why do you think at this time we are attracted to spirituality in this country in a way we haven't been previously?
Well, I think there are several reasons. I think, for one thing, there are people who claim to be attracted to spirituality in churches and things who aren't really. They're looking for a place to feel safe, something to belong to. Also, I think that the movement toward recovery in this country is bringing a lot of spiritual interest in. There's a lot of suffering in recovery, and in order to survive and to keep going and to have a life, we need to find meaning in that kind of suffering. I also think that our place in time here in the very end of the 20th century has something to do with it, partly just because we're coming up on the millennium, but also partly because a lot in this last century, a lot of our old understandings and structures have broken down for one reason or another. Often just we've found that they don't work anymore. And so spirituality can provide a framework to live in as we work through this period.
Thank you very much. What you think might be going on with spirituality, why do you think people are searching for this right now?
I'm not sure why people as a whole or as a country would be searching spirituality, but on an individual basis, there could be many reasons, such as a person that experienced some kind of life-threatening case where they almost drove off a bridge or died somehow, yet they survived. They could be searching. They could kind of relate that to a higher power, sort of saving their life. Maybe a child was growing up in a Catholic family, so therefore they were trained to be Catholic throughout their life, and it's just a sort of become part of the personality. They sort of acceptance sort of thing, or maybe it could be all different kinds of reasons. Maybe somebody needs this to explain the unexplainable. Maybe they don't believe in the evolution theory. They believe in a higher power. So they need this just to satisfy their own uncertainty as to why life is life, and so they may relate that to a higher power.
Excellent.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you very much. Ed, why do you think, as a country or as individuals, we are returning back to spirituality?
Well, I think in society a while ago we were over-concerned with finding the means of life and surviving, and we found that that wasn't fulfilling. So people are trying to find the meaning of life and obtain that fulfillment we've been missing.
Okay, so people were so concerned with getting by that they didn't have time to look inside themselves?
Yeah, exactly. I think when we do that, we find that there's a reason for us to live, not just to survive.
Have you found that for yourself?
I think so. I think so. I've been kind of searching out different religions and stuff, and I think that helps make life more worthwhile.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Welcome back. Well, Linda, as you could hear, we had some definite opinions about spirituality and why we're searching. Did anything strike you you'd like to make a comment?
It all did. I can't quite pull it all back. That was really articulate. Each one of them struck on some really significant issues. This idea that it's not working, that we've tried it all and it's not filling the hole. This idea that we really are trying to explain the unexplainable, and we've been a society kind of locked into a science that has told us we can explain it all, and we've reached a place in our lives, many of us, where we figured out no, that there are some things beyond our ability to put it into a formula. Okay. And this overall sense, I loved what that last guy said about we were focused on a means for living, and now we're looking at the meaning of life.
That's right.
That's what I see. That's what I'm seeing in my office. That's what I'm hearing out in the community. That's what I'm reading, is that people are saying there's got to be more to life than making a living and coming home and watching television and satisfying your physical needs.
And I was also struck with the point about how in this culture we have come to believe that reality is what we see.
Yes.
What we can measure.
Yes.
And ultimately what we find is we come up against certain things that will remain ambivalent. we cannot find an answer to. And I think his point was well taken, that at some point we become uncomfortable with the fact that there's not an explanation. At that point, we have to look outside standard scientific method
Yes.
and say, you know, maybe there's something here that we haven't thought of.
Exactly. Something
Okay.
beyond even our capacity to imagine. Something bigger than ourselves, bigger than our brains, farther than our brains can take us.
Okay.
That is worth reaching for, or that perhaps is reaching for us.
And that in fact, you know, we had mentioned before the break about our discomfort with our own imperfections. You know, that the reality is we're not going to know everything. We're not going to have all of the answers.
Exactly.
And we are going to remain imperfect. And I was reading a book recently called The Spirituality of Imperfection. And, you know, talking about that, in fact, that is how we connect, is through our foibles and through our imperfections.
Yeah, certainly is
And
how we connect.
That certainly is how we continue to bond, isn't it? That I think is important to keep in mind that when we start talking about community, you know, we're not talking about a community of perfect people who all seek each other out. I think where we seek each other is, again, we have that hold you were talking about, and saying that, you know, I need to actually be able to touch physically a representation maybe of the spirituality
Yes.
that we're talking about.
Well, traditional Christianity has taught us that every human being who is connected with God through Jesus is in fact a representative of Jesus on earth. The First Lady that gave the answer, I think sometimes people are going to church not for spirituality but for comfort and a place to belong. Well, who's to say that that's not the first real yearning of spirituality, is to go to that place where you do find comfort and you do find some place to belong, and you find something true and solid that is beyond your capacity to doubt, that your doubting or your confusion or your frustration can't shake.
And in fact, I have had the sense in recovery myself of walking into a room and feeling at home.
Yes.
There's that recognition of, okay, these are my people. Okay, and they can be from all over the place, but there's something there that does defy description, that makes me part of.
And you know what really opens it up is the other thing she alluded to, which is in recovery you get peeled.
Yeah.
All of that facade, all of that mask of success or strength or independence that we wear daily gets ripped away because you realize that's not getting it. Then you have to show who you really are. Then you've got a room full of people who are actually present and showing up. Then real connection, real talking, the real questions get asked.
That's right. So then somebody can really see me.
Yes.
I can be seen.
Yes.
And I think I've reached a point where I'm willing to tolerate that.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at another reason that maybe at this particular time we are on this search for meaning. Modern people are problem solvers, but the demand for answers crowds out patience. With mystery, with that, we cannot control. So that is very similar to what we were talking about before, which is that we reach a place where I think we are interested in mystery. You keep seeing shows on PBS about angels and guardian angels, and people recounting stories of being in situations where they feel guided, almost where they have heard voices kind of gently say, you know, it's going to be okay. I've heard that more than one time in different meeting places where somebody stood up and said, I had this experience of comfort. And it kind of remains with people who've been touched in that way.
Absolutely. It changes your life. I mean, it's because it reaches to that core and it awakens this desire for more of that kind of touch, more of that kind of connection. And I believe that God has orchestrated, has designed us in such a way that we yearn to understand mystery, because ultimately that will draw us to Him, because if in fact you believe that we do have limitations, that we are imperfect, and that we are kind of inadequate to come up with the answers ourselves, you have to reach past yourself.
Okay. So there's a saying in recovery that you know, the first and second steps are represented by I'm I'm not sure who God is, but I'm not it.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
So that sense that, okay, maybe I'm not the center of the universe. Maybe I don't know
Rats.
everything. And in a way, though, I think for me what's happened is that is a way out of despair. Because if I can search for something outside of the little bit, I mean, I can study and I can work for the rest of my life, and I will still have but a portion of what's available to me. Because I'm a
Absolutely.
human vessel.
Absolutely.
And it's gratifying in a way that I don't have to know everything, that I can't be saved by reading enough books,
Right.
because that is a temptation, you know?
Well, part of the peace that comes with a level of maturity, I think, is also the peace that comes with doing real good recovery work, and that is realizing you can't do it all yourself, and you can't come up with the answers on your own. And there really needs to be a place, a person greater than you to reach to for those answers. And my personal experience with that is similar to yours. It's that when I finally accepted that I not only wasn't God, I didn't have to be, there was this calm, this sense of, oh, great, now what? And then there was anger. Wait a minute. If I'm not God, how am I sure I'm going to be able to control this in a way that's safe and comfortable for me?
That's exactly right. I think a lot of us have moved into that position because of maybe a background of needing to control or needing to survive or wanting to carve out a place for ourselves where we do feel safe and we do feel cared for. And having to move outside of that and trust an
Yes.
intuitive part of ourselves.
The golden word.
That's right.
Trust.
Trust things we can't see, we can't measure.
Exactly.
I think is truly an act of faith.
And you know, going back to something we talked about at the very beginning of the show, this whole issue of trust and mystery is partly why we see so many people defining their own religion, because that's still a way to be God on your own. I believe personally that's also why that the Judeo-Christian explanation of God is such a struggle for some people, because of the sheer amount of mystery connected with that God is in so many ways unknowable and yet making himself available to us, revealing himself, but on his terms.
Okay. I want to thank you for being with us today. I know I've been touched by what you've had to say. Join us again next week as we turn our attention to adult attention deficit disorder. Maybe we don't grow out of it the way we thought we did. I'm Mary Crocker Cook, and this is Bay Area Psychology. Good night.